Everyone you know is tired. We are a society running on cold brew, afternoon espresso, and an underlying sense of burnout that never quite goes away. The standard explanation for this exhaustion is that modern life broke our natural sleep schedules. We assume that before electricity, our ancestors slept longer, and that smartphones and late-night television have simply stolen those crucial hours. To test that assumption, anthropologists in 2015 tracked the actual sleep patterns of traditional hunter-gatherer tribes in Tanzania, Namibia, and Bolivia. These are populations living largely without industrial technology, experiencing the exact light and dark cycles human beings evolved in. Curious, this brings up a strange contradiction. If we go to sleep every night on memory foam mattresses, inside climate-controlled rooms, safe from predators, why are we experiencing an epidemic of fatigue that ancient humans never faced? The researchers found that these tribespeople were not sleeping 8 or 9 hours a night. Their average sleep duration clocked in at just 5.5 to 7 hours. This chart compares those ancient averages with our modern habits. You can see the hunter-gatherers maxing out around 7 hours, while people in modern industrial societies actually average 7.1 hours of sleep per night. Industrial populations also score higher in a metric called sleep efficiency, which is simply the percentage of time spent in bed where a person is actually asleep. If we are resting longer and more efficiently than our ancestors, sleep duration isn't the problem. Our fatigue comes from a severe disruption in how our internal biology interacts with the world we built. There is a biological framework that explains this disconnect: evolutionary mismatch. For over 99% of human history, our physiology adapted to survive on the African savanna, a setting scientists call the environment of evolutionary adaptedness. Every mechanism in our body was perfectly calibrated to the inputs of this specific landscape. Biological evolution is a slow, deeply conservative process. It takes thousands of generations for genetic traits to shift in response to new environmental demands. Human technology, however, leaped forward. The agricultural and industrial revolutions represent less than 1% of the time we spent as hunters, yet they moved us from the savanna into high-density cities and indoor labor. The digital revolution compressed this change even further, shifting our professional and social lives into entirely indoor, artificial spaces in a few short decades. We designed these technologies to make life easier and more productive. Instead, we constructed a 24-hour, always-on habitat that our ancient biology simply does not have the tools to process. To understand how this breaks our energy levels, we have to look at the two-process model of sleep regulation. Your wakefulness is governed by two forces: Process S, which is the physical buildup of sleep pressure the longer you stay awake, and Process C, your 24-hour internal circadian rhythm. This scientific diagram illustrates how Process C operates. Deep in the brain, an internal master clock called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, communicates with the lateral hypothalamus to control the switch between sleeping and waking. Notice the input on the left side of the SCN. That clock relies almost entirely on light, specifically the sun. Sunlight acts as a Zeitgeber, a German term meaning time giver, which signals the brain to either suppress or release the sleep hormone melatonin. Artificial lighting and the 30 to 50 lux emitting from LED screens hijack this precise biological pathway. When you look at a phone or sit in a brightly lit office late in the evening, your retinas register perpetual daytime, feeding false data into the master clock. By blinding our internal clock with constant artificial daylight, we weaken the amplitude of our circadian rhythm, which should be a sharp, distinct cycle of high energy and deep rest, flattens out into a continuous state of chronic fatigue. Sleep is only one victim of this mismatch. Our psychological stress systems evolved to handle acute, immediate physical threats. If a predator appeared, adrenaline spiked, the threat was escaped, and the body returned to a calm baseline. Modern workplaces keep these systems chronically engaged through abstract threats like deadlines and inbox alerts. Because these environments also deprive us of natural elements, they contribute to vitamin D and serotonin deficiencies, which researchers link to the rise in depression and anxiety disorders. This diagram shows how this principle applies to our diets. Panels A through C show ancient mechanisms evolved to seek out scarce sugars. In panels D and E, modern mass-processed sugar overloads our insulin regulation, leading directly to obesity and diabetes. Our daily fatigue is the most visible symptom of a larger systemic failure. Our bodies are physically fighting the environment we built, a mismatch that is compromising our mental health and metabolic systems. The exhaustion we feel today is a symptom of circadian misalignment. We are getting high-duration, comfortable rest that is entirely out of sync with our biology, while our ancestors thrived on shorter sleep cycles that perfectly mirrored the rotation of the Earth. Fixing this requires a practice called chronohygiene. This means consciously realigning our modern daily routines with the ancient biological rules written into our genes. The inputs required to fix the clock are straightforward: securing early morning sunlight exposure to properly reset the suprachiasmatic nucleus, reducing artificial blue light at night to allow natural melatonin release. We don't have to abandon electricity, digital tools, or the comforts of the modern world. We just have to stop treating ourselves like machines that can be plugged in and run around the clock, and remember that we are an evolved species.